An NFL draft analyst thinks the Chicago Bears should make this shocking draft pick. Hello everyone, I'm Andy here with Chicago Bears React, bringing you all the Chicago Bears news you're seeking in the season and in the off season. Before we dive into today's story, please take a moment, like, subscribe, turn on notifications, make sure you're tuned into what we're doing and that you don't miss a thing, because this is the off season of all off seasons for the Chicago Bears. Now, for today's story, we're going to look at something that's outside of what everybody's expecting. There's been a very loud debate, shall we say, amongst Bears fans on Caleb Williams or Justin Fields. What do you do? Do you build around the quarterback you have, or do you roll the dice with the quarterback you don't know? But one Nate Tice was on with the guys from CHGO talking about his favorite quarterback pick. And he believes the prize of the draft is Drake May. Drake May is the quarterback for the University of North Carolina. And as Nate kind of took a look at the two kind of top quarterbacks in this draft, he had nothing necessarily bad to say about Caleb. This was really him saying he thinks Drake May is him. He thinks he's that dude. So let's address a couple of things real quick. So for those of you who don't know, Nate Tice is an actual football guy. This is not just somebody who has just watched a little bit of film and is just giving his opinion. This is somebody who played college football. This is somebody who's been in the front office for NFL franchises. He's been around football his entire life. His dad, Mike Tice, is a very well known and respected NFL coach. Mike was even a coach down for the Chicago Bears for a time. And so, Nate's somebody who he grew up around football. He's grown up in football. He knows what he's talking about. He currently is a writer for The Athletic. He also is co-host of the Prospects to Pros podcast, where he kind of breaks down what's going on with the various prospects. He spends a lot of time watching college tape. I'll tell you that. And so when he speaks, I'm not saying he's like the greatest scout of all time. I'm just saying this is more notable than just a random blogger. Okay. The other thing I would point out is the kind of obvious concern Bears fans will have when they hear that a UNC quarterback is potentially the guy the Bears should take. You can't make this stuff up. But listen, he's not Mitch Trubisky, okay? When Mitch Trubisky came out, there was no consensus like this is the guy quarterback. How do I know that? I know that because the Bears got him at number 2. If there was a generational quarterback in that draft, they would have gone number 1. Just plain and simple. That would have happened. And it didn't happen. You had one team willing to pass on Trubisky altogether. You had a second team willing to trade back and not take Trubisky. And for those of you who say, well, yeah, because the generational guy was Pat Mahomes, a lot of teams passed on Pat Mahomes, okay? So we're just saying, like, first, from a prospect evaluation standpoint, nobody has talked about Mitch Trubisky the way people have talked about Drake May. Last year, you heard it time and time again. It's no guarantee teams are going to want to trade up for the number 1 pick in the draft to take Bryce Young, to take CJ Stroud, because you're rolling the dice on a less favorable prospect. And all the analysts were saying, if you wait a year, there are 2 generational type guys, Caleb Williams and Drake May. So I say that to say this is a different player. It's not the same guy. This is someone who has been touted for a long time, somebody who's been more productive, somebody who has more than just traits, but he has good traits, and we'll get into that in a second. So if we take a look here at some of kind of the numbers he put up, these are his rushing numbers. If we look at his passing numbers, he's someone who has shown the ability to sling the rock. So 4,300 yards, 3,600 yards, pretty favorable touchdown to interception ratio, throwing 54 touchdowns to 16 interceptions over the last 2 years. And so, you look at that and you say, these aren't necessarily like light the world on fire numbers, but that's also not something that you should necessarily demand of your quarterback prospects. And so ultimately, if you look at the 2 probably greatest quarterbacks of all time already, Tom Brady and Pat Mahomes. Neither one of them was that great in college. Tom Brady looked like just an average quarterback at Michigan. You look at Pat Mahomes, he had some doozies of a game when he was at Texas Tech, because college numbers, college production doesn't necessarily translate, okay? There's a reason why so many teams draft based on traits. And so let's not get too wrapped up. But at the same time, if you're looking for somebody to check boxes, Drake May checked boxes. He had good stats. He put up good numbers. On top of the passing numbers, if we come back, take a look at those rushing numbers. This is somebody who, he had 16 rushing touchdowns over the last 2 years. He had 1,000 yards passing over the last couple of, rushing over the last couple of seasons. So this is somebody who, he's definitely more of a passer than he is a runner, but he has athletic ability. This is not just a statue. This is somebody who has that talent. Which to me is interesting, because one of the recent comparisons I've heard, Dan Orlovsky came out and said his comparison is Ben Roethlisberger. And Orlovsky is not someone who's just started watching a little bit of tape. He's actually called some games that Drake May's been a part of. And, the thing he pointed out is Drake May is 6'5", 230. And as far as he can tell, he could put on another 20 pounds. This is somebody who, from a size standpoint, really could be that Ben Roethlisberger type. Somebody who could be kind of a big boy, somebody who could absorb a lot of hits, somebody who could stand in the pocket and really dice up a defense. He's got the arm talent for sure, but he also is somebody who can move a little bit. And so, I like this comparison a decent amount, because Roethlisberger could move. He was somebody who, he could get you those yards, but at the same time, no one's comparing Ben Roethlisberger to a Lamar Jackson or even like a Josh Allen. Like, this is somebody who just can move if called upon. And so, interesting comparison there. If you want to take a look at some other comparisons, this was courtesy of Matt Miller of ESPN, but in an interview he did with a NFL quarterback coach, they raved about Drake May and said, quote, "He's Josh Allen, Justin Herbert, and I think his arm is comparable to C.J. Stroud." Okay. Well, that catches my attention. I think any of those quarterbacks would be very exciting. I think, going back to the Ben Roethlisberger comparison, I think that would be very exciting. Look, Ben Roethlisberger is not like a top even 10 quarterback in history, but if you're telling me the Bears could have Ben Roethlisberger's career for the next decade plus, yeah, sign me up. I'll take that. I would get rid of the number one pick for that. That'd be exciting. So this is an exciting prospect. And so the reason I bring this up is because there's been two camps. Keep the number one pick and draft Caleb, or trade the number one pick and stick with Justin Fields. And I'm saying, what if they did both? What if they traded Justin, got a second-round pick, and then traded the number one pick to the Commanders and got more capital, and then took Drake May? It's an interesting proposition. So now you're talking, the current discussion that's out there has been that the starting price for the Commanders to trade for the number one pick would be at least 2 firsts, which, as I read into that, I believe includes the number 2 pick. So it'd be an additional first-round pick. And then probably at least a second-round pick, if not a couple seconds. And so imagine if the Bears could trade the number one pick in Justin Fields and come away with the number 2 pick, a couple of second-round picks in this year's draft, and then a future first-round pick. So now you're talking, if Drake May's him, and again, all this comes down to how Ryan Poles and his staff evaluate all these quarterbacks. But if you're saying, like, you know what, Drake May we think is actually the guy, and we think we've got these Commanders people just so in love with Caleb that we can get a nice haul from them, and still get the guy we want. Whew, That'd be exciting. Now all of a sudden you're talking, you get your quarterback. At number 9, you take a wide receiver or defensive end. And then now you got 2 second-round picks, which you sorely need to probably take a wide receiver and a center. That would be what I'd be looking at. And so, if you're doing a mock draft, you're talking about taking Drake May, maybe a Dallas Turner to be your defensive end, and then taking, like a Troy Franklin or one of these, not necessarily first round wide receivers, but somebody early second round, and then go get a Zach Frazier to be your center. You're talking like all of a sudden now you have in with 2 trades basically taking care of all your gaps on your offense. Because this is the one thing I'm still not sure about is how do the Bears, if they take Caleb, how do they solve receiver and center without trading the number 9 pick? I don't know how you do that because you need a second round pick and you probably need a couple second round picks. And you're better off using that number 9 pick on a defensive end because you're not going to get a good defensive end later in the draft. So, a lot of intrigue here. I'm not saying I think Drake is the guy. I'm just saying if the evaluation is as close as some people in the league think it is, let's keep an open mind to the possibility that Caleb versus Justin might not be the entire debate. So let me know what you think in the comments. Do you think Drake is just Trubisky 2.0? Are you excited at all by what you hear about Drake? Let me know what you think. Thanks so much for watching. And as always, bear down.